Fast Forward Productions. The women are speaking.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to The Unfiltered Entrepreneur. I'm so excited for you to meet one of my dear friends, Amandina. She is not only brilliant, but she's incredibly kind and so generous with her information today. If you have any interest in creating an agency, whether you want 2 employees and $300,000 in revenue or 20 employees and $3 million of revenue, it's so fascinating to hear other women running agencies, their tips, their tricks, what they've noticed, the background that they have inside their business. And Amandina is so generous with what she gives us today about mistakes she's made, what she's learned, what she's doing differently, the stage of business that she's in. I'm excited for you to hear a very honest take of the excitement of agency ownership, because I know that I love my agency. I know Amandina loves hers, but we both have perspectives that lend itself to the idea that it's not for everybody and it is very tough sometimes. So I'm grateful that Amandina shared some of that with us today. I'm excited for us to listen. But before we dive into the episode, something very exciting is that Amandina and I have actually paired up with our friend Audrey. And us three are all not only agency owners, but we are very close friends. We speak every single day. We're in an agency group of other owners of agencies where we share, collaborate, we ideate, we help each other through problems, we vent. And what we have found is that nobody is really talking about the generational wealth that can be developed from agency ownership, the freedom that can come from an agency, the creativity, the collaboration, the human connection, all of the things that I think are really excited about agencies. I know that they both love their businesses as well. So we are hosting an event October 19th, 2023, where you can come join us live. We will be chatting with you one-on-one. We're supplying lunch. We're having cocktails. We're sharing really behind the scenes looks at our business and all of the ways that you can market yourself better. You can learn how to pitch to really exciting clients, like some of the celebrities all three of us collaborate with and support. But you'll also learn team building, structures, systems to support. If you run an agency, you want to be at this event. The pricing is extremely low. You'll be able to come in, learn from us, ask your questions one-on-one, and learn from other agency owners while also finding maybe your best friend along the way. If you're not able to join us in New York, that's perfectly fine. You can stream it for as low as $47, or you can even add a VIP package if you do come live, where we will treat you to dinner and you will have a bougie little night on the town with your new best friends in the agency world. Let's dive into the episode with Amandina, and I hope to see you October 19th. Okay, welcome back to The Unfiltered Entrepreneur. I have one of my dear friends, Amandina, with us today. Hello, Amandina.
Hi, Ashley. I'm so pumped to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. Now, I just gave you the nicest introduction, I'm sure. I haven't recorded it yet, but I'm sure it's incredibly kind. But why don't we get an introduction from you as well? Tell us a little bit about you, your background, that kind of thing before we dive in.
Absolutely. So my background is in fashion PR, and I now own a social media management agency and a studio. So I'm the founder of Media a la carte and Studio a la carte, both based out of New York City.
And you know, what's nice about you is that we have our dear friend Audrey in common who connected us. Audrey, I met through Hannah Nieves. Hannah was like, you have to meet Audrey. You guys are going to become best friends. Instant friends. And then Audrey said, listen, I have this friend Amandina and you have to meet her because we need more agency friends. We need more support. That is when it all started, that me, you, Audrey, and a few other friends have now come together, and we have little meetings, and I'm saying it like it's so cute and frail, but it's we're very supportive. You know, we have our support group of people. And so I just want to set the stage for everybody that that's how we know each other and how we've met. And it's just been great being connected and creating a friendship with you.
Yes, I have loved every second. And I think Audrey has been such a great connector. But beyond that, I think it's been so incredibly valuable to have authentic conversations with other agency owners in particular, because, you can own a business, but it's so different when you're like a service provider, I think, and, have authentic, vulnerable conversations that sort of move your friendship along. So I have valued that so much about you. And like, I'm excited to share on this podcast today about some of the things that we discussed and have talked about, because I have found so much value in the conversations we've had along with sort of our agency group.
Well, it's a perfect segue, because one of the things I think is remarkable about our group is that I think there's nothing wrong with being a solopreneur. I think it's completely different to be an agency owner, because we have the stress of payroll and, hitting certain revenue markers, maybe paying for leases and that kind of thing. And so my question for you is like, how has that transition been into hiring, having employees, having a team? Like, what has that looked like for you?
So I hired pretty early on, very, very part-time. And it really was one of the best things that I did. Like, I think I was month 3 or 4 that I ended up hiring like a part-time contractor, like 5 to 10 hours a week to help with like our internal SEO and blogs, which I feel like is controversial because most people will tell you your first hire should be like revenue driving or delegating. And it was sort of like this other thing that has now really helped us with lead generation. Like 3 years later, we have like incredible SEO because of this decision that I made in the beginning. But point being, I hired sort of early, and then it's been a slow growth process since then, finding the right combination for team. And it has been hellish this past year. I'm going to be completely honest. I know that you're familiar with sort of all of the ups and downs that we've gone through. We're really a marker between agency and solopreneurship, or, a different type of entrepreneurship, because you're dealing with both team and clients. It's like very, very complicated. So we've been doing a lot of work this year around structure. And, something that I was just talking about this morning is there's no correct formula, especially for these newer agency types that are evolving and starting because of the market. Like, social media didn't exist as it does 10 years ago. So there's no formula where it's like, well, structure like this and you'll get here. It's so nuanced. And I think that's where a lot of the problems come from. And of course, people are nuanced. So who you're getting in those positions for your team makes things complicated. So, we've definitely been through a journey about that, but we went from like myself for the first 3 months and then some contractors here and there to now having like a team of 9. I think we have 6 full-time people and 3 part-time contractors still.
It's a massive team. And with that, there's definitely like the weight on the shoulders of like making sure everybody gets paid and like that you have the bills coming in on time and managing cash flow, which is just a different beast for like truly the right person to manage.
Yes. Oh my God. Like, yes. I think the stress, it's like one of the things that you can be the most proud of. I think when you start an agency, you're like, holy shit, I'm paying other people's salaries, like people's life. I've created people's livelihoods. And then on the other hand, you're like, oh shit, I'm responsible for people's livelihoods. Right. Like, it's both so cool and equally like terrifying.
Yeah. And something we've talked about, you and I, at length, is the proper structure. And to your point, I don't think there's a right and wrong way, but we have structured quite differently, where we both run primarily social media businesses. You have content creators or social media managers that are really managing top to bottom for their clients, where I have a group of full-time employees that work on all clients, but in their specialized zone of genius. And it's been interesting to see how you run your team, how I run my team, our hiccups and how they differ from each other, and the strengths that we have in our team and how they differ from each other. How has the structure of your team benefited you as a business owner, benefited the growth of the business? Like, what are some tips from like structure perspective that you could lend someone interested in an agency?
Yes. I think there's benefit to having people in their zone of genius. Like you said, like we have a little bit of that where we have a video editor that has really allowed then our social media managers to not have to be really good at that skill. Because I think it's hard when you're in an agency, it's really hard to find one person, no matter what your type of agency, copywriting, production, whatever it is, it's really hard to find one person who's good at a variety of different things. People have skills in different areas. And if you're looking for someone who's going to blow you out of the water in like 5 different things, it's hard to find. And I think as someone who has developed skills in a lot of different areas, you're like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? When I was looking for people, I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, yes, you can be good at all these things and you can be, but really, I do think like finding specializations to an extent has been good. We did try like having a graphic designer route for a while, and that didn't work for us workflow wise. So I think that our structure now that has been really helpful across the board is video editor and then community manager. And then we have 3 social media managers that are really doing feed design and graphic design and copywriting. An account manager that really handles like client satisfaction, strategy, reporting, and all of that stuff. And then we have a contractor who just does like copywriting for our blogs and SEO. So point being, the best investment we have now made is this account manager position that like is really designed to be driving the success of our clients, allow me to free up my time in reviews. And that is like, again, not necessarily a revenue driver because the social media managers are really like the revenue driving positions. But I think when you're thinking about how much time you can free up for yourself by having like a higher level person in that role that is dedicated to client satisfaction, there's something to be said about that. Although it is like a large investment in a role that's not necessarily direct revenue driving, it's been a huge game changer for us.
Well, and it allows you to step into more of a revenue driving space because a lot of that work is off your plate. So to your point, like you may not see it directly, but it is there definitely behind the scenes in some capacity. And what's interesting is that I think you kind of mentioned a way that our friendship has benefited, and especially in our group, you know, just as an example, the account management position that you spoke about is one that I'm looking at hiring. And so I was so stressed about it. And I'm like, what should it look like? What should I include? What am I allowed to ask for? Like, I don't know these things. I'm just doing it for the first time. And Amandina, you said, here's my like job roles and responsibilities. Here's what we put out into the world. If you need to start here, start here. Just a further testament of like why friends in this space are so important, because that was such a big help for me. But I love hearing about the way that you structured your team. I do want to also talk about the clients that you have, because you have some fun clients.
Yes, we have clients that run the gambit for sure in a variety of fields and industries, I would say. But yes.
Is there anything that you say like not this thing or not this thing? Like, do you try to quote unquote niche it at all or not really?
That's been an interesting journey for us where I feel like we've been moving more and more into the like health, wellness, beauty, fashion. There's still a lot of the industries there, like hospitality. But I think that I've enjoyed working in a lot of different industries because it doesn't get boring. Like if you're just working on one thing, it can be hard from client to client too, to make those like really different. Even if the brands are different, I think strategy tends to like overlap a little bit, which can be a strength, but sometimes can just get like really boring. But we have some fun clients. Like, you know, we launched Saint Spritz, which is Jojo Fletcher from the Bachelorette's brand this year. We also have a vodka brand called Boyd and Blair. So we're in that sort of product space, but we also have like a luxury inn in the Catskills. And what are some other fun brands that we've been worked on? We have like a celebrity dentist with like, you know, 250K followers. That's been like a sort of a large, it's very funny. Like does Hailey Bieber's veneers, that type of thing. You know what I mean? So it really runs the gambit, but I've really enjoyed like touching all of these different industries and learning different things from all of them. I think has been like powerful and fun.
I think it's so much fun. And to be, you know, I feel like as I grow, I realize that it's not necessarily industry specific, but working style specific. So I more so am interested in like a client's team setup or their KPIs or their growth strategy that they're interested in and making sure that we align there. Because at the end of the day, the work's the work, whether it's veneers or Aperol Spritz, you know, you want to make sure your process integrates seamlessly into a business. And I think that kind of eliminates a niche conversation.
I love that philosophy. I think it can also be about, at the end of the day, do you like and will you vibe with that client? It's hard to do in the beginning. Like anyone listening to this who is in the beginning stages. I said yes to everything and everyone in the beginning. It was like this random thing. Yeah, sure. Like this supplements brand, this random brand. And I think as you have more autonomy over that, really understanding if you are going to vibe with this client. And this is very social media agency specific, but like what assets do they have? That is just like such an important and integral part of the social media management process. It's like, are they going to give you assets or no? And how is that going to hold up your process? So that is like a big factor in our decision making these days. Like, do they have budget for us to produce those assets, or do they have the assets? Because if not, like, you just know that it's going to be sort of a disaster. So I think your criteria like changes as you grow and as you evolve. And even now I'm making decisions based on like, is this going to be good for the team or bad for the team? For example, there are just some clients who require such a large amount of research to be able, we have some clients where the caption is love a sunny day, you know what I mean? With short, sweet, to the point. But we have some clients where it's like so information heavy that it just takes so much research, so much understanding of the brand, so much fact checking that's really important, that we need to understand like how that increases time pull and if that's a good decision for the team at large. So factoring that in too, once you get to that place, is like just an interesting wrench in the equation.
And, you bring up an interesting point about team, with everybody kind of talking about like back to the office and like heading back to the office. What's your team structure like? Are we remote? Are we working in a physical location? Like, what's that setup like?
Oh my God. I'm like still working through this right now. We are hybrid currently. So we are in person like 2 days a week. And that sort of changes for us. Like right now we just sent out a survey and we're like, what does everybody like? Like, what do you want? And basically it was like a pretty mixed bag of people wanted to be together at least 1 day a week. So we're sort of doing like a 2 days a week, 1 week, 1 day a week the next week, which I think is interesting. But it's so funny because my dad, we've been remote for the first 2.5 years of business. But we've had some clients who we shoot their product. And so we've had like an in-person need since maybe like last year, I think. And my dad has always been, my dad's like very traditionalist, is like, how can you run a team remotely? And I'm like, it's 2023. Like absolutely everyone is doing that these days, including like, I don't know,
Very
like
easy.
Meta, like, But I do find a lot of value in ways that you wouldn't expect. Like I think with retention of team members, it helps to be in person. You're like forming bonds that you wouldn't be otherwise. And it helps with like loyalty. I do think you're able to create more of a culture. For example, we're doing this like Wellness Wednesday thing where one Wednesday a month, we like block off for no meetings and we're watching like Gilmore Girls at the studio and doing work, which I think is just like fun. It's so fun. We're able to like implement culture a little bit easier because we have a hybrid environment. But at the same time, as just from an entrepreneur's perspective though, I don't want to build something where all of a sudden I'm chained to be there every single day. I'm like, whoa. This is not why I started the business in the first place. So just really trying to be cognizant of that as we grow. Like, what's the why? I want to be able to go somewhere for a month and not be tied to something. So we're thinking about like potentially just remote summers in general. Like, what does that look like? So, and I think it's exciting to be in a place in business and just an age in general where you're able to have like new exciting structures and it doesn't have to be like just this. So just working through all of that. But I do think in person has allowed for faster communication. It just does. Like you turn to the person, you're like, what about this? As opposed to formulating the Slack for 5 minutes, but I do love working from home. So what about, because I know that you've had a variety of that, like your team gets together, maybe like once a quarter in New York or something. Yeah. How's that been working for you?
Yeah, we try to get together often. We're actually heading to LA Wednesday to meet up together to work on, we have BeautyCon, which is an event that we do social media for. So we'll be there this weekend. I try when I can to get everyone together. I've had a full-time team for almost exactly a year now. I think we've had 4 or 5 meetups, but one of my team members is in New York. One of them is in Houston. We have some people in Florida, LA, Chicago. Like we're kind of all over the place. But my core team, I really want to be in New York, mainly because I do have aspirations to get back, or I want to be in New York often. I also think it's a great hub for me time and like where we're going with that and the relationships that I have in the city. So for me, I don't really know how we're going to be in or out of the office. But to your point, it's much quicker to say, can you take a look at this than like, hi, do you have a moment? Can I get 5 minutes on your schedule? It's like the collaboration is so important, I think. So it's a great point. And I think that it's exciting to think about like the creative ways that we get to work together now, because there are different ways that we can formulate teams moving forward. And I think it will be kind of exciting to see what that looks like when we have a more robust New York team together. So I'm excited to see that. I see that happening in a big way next year. I am anticipating like 6 to 8 hires next year, which is like,
oh my God.
But
awesome and woof and amazing and like a lot of work. That's where my mind goes when I hear that. But like incredible. Congrats.
A lot of work. Thank you. I mean, I think that's half will be full-time or half will be part-time, but that's interesting because Amandina, you have had your agency for 3 years. I've had my business for 3 years and the agency for 1.5. It's very easy for someone to listen to us and say, oh, well, yeah, you're hiring, or yeah, you're in person, or yeah, this is your team structure. Like you're on the bike. Tell me a little bit about how you started your agency. What did those beginning moments look like? Was this an accident? Did you build it on purpose? Like, tell me about that beginning.
Definitely an accident where I was freelancing. And after I left PR, you know, when I was in PR for a number of years, I represented like Christian Siriano, produced shows in Fashion Week. There were things I loved about the industry, but things that I also hated about it. And I think the way that PR was moving, I really did see at the time, like magazines were starting to struggle. Like they were really searching for those ad dollars. Magazines were starting to close. Instead of just organic PR placements, it was all starting to be sponsored. It was like you couldn't get your client in organically because that spot had to be reserved for who was paying for X. And the industry was like really, really changing. I saw that and I was like, what do I love about this? Because it's definitely not the schmoozing with editors. I feel that I'm just such an organic networker. Like I can't force it if I, you know, and there's a lot of that needs to happen in PR where you need to find ways within yourself to like connect with a lot of different people. And I'm like, either I'm connecting or I'm not with you. I left, which was scary. Like I left my full-time salaried position without another job. It was scary at the time, but I had come from a place like my background was in acting in college and marketing. But I had lived that freelance life before. So it wasn't as scary for me, I think, as someone who like gets a full-time job out of college, is like working their way up the ladder. So I do want to say that and own that. But when I was freelancing, I think I was like, I'm good at storytelling. I'm good at telling the client story, which is a big part of PR. But at the time, social media was just sort of coming up. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. All that to be said, pandemic hits, I'm freelancing. And it's like, great, time to make a website. Like, how can I make the most of all of this free time? You know, I think legitimizing this, I was very lucky in freelancing that my roster was filled with clients just organically from my PR days. But I knew that you can only charge so much, I think, as a freelancer without sort of like the assets and the brand to back it up. So 2020 hit. I was like, time to make a website, very team messy action. Shout out to Audrey, who always says this, but it's like, I was just like, let me just make this website and launch it and then figure out from there. You know what I mean? It really supported that idea that having assets that reflect sort of your price point, you're able to keep leveling up that way. So I just fucking did it. I was just like, let me make this website, did it myself. Made my like little branding myself. I don't think you need to like have a big budget and invest right away. But then from there, it really started like within my network and then started to grow. Like within 3 months, I was hiring someone to sort of like do a little bit more. But truly building an agency was by accident. Because when I worked at agencies, I was like, oh, I never. As I started to see the possibility, I was like, I want to build the anti-agency. I want to build something that is a culture that I can get behind. So that really has always been my why.
It's so funny. I have a very similar but different experience of accidentally falling into it. Also was like, I'm never going to run a social media agency. Like it's not going to happen. And what I've noticed is that it's not the work that I'm in love with. It is the business I'm in love with.
Yeah.
I love collaborating with the clients. I like signing the clients. I like working with the team. I like the process of the client agency dynamic. How has it been for you to step into like a management leadership role?
I do think that that is my favorite part. Like, I think now that I'm not doing any client work and haven't done it for a while, I love the running the business part of it. I love the team interactions and like cultivating talent and being a mentor. I really love that. I love the new exciting clients. I love the new initiatives that, launching new things, which is why I opened like a second business this year and brick and mortar and all of that kind of stuff. But it requires such a different skill set. It's like you start out doing the work. And even if you start out hiring someone or whatever that looks like, learning all of what it takes to run a business is so different than the skill set that you initially had to start something. And I think if you can just continue to cultivate a sense of like excitement around that learning and growth, then you're set up for success. But I would be curious to hear your thoughts on that too. I mean, there are things I hate about running a business too. Like I was just talking about the registering in different states for each employee and stuff. I'm like, what is this? It's just the bane of my existence. But, from your perspective, like what is your sort of favorite thing or least favorite thing about like transitioning from work to like management?
So I have actually an interesting background because when I was in the fashion industry, I was in for 10 years. I grew to a place of management and cultivating talent. And I had people underneath me and people underneath them. I was hiring, I was developing their skill sets. I was helping show them what I knew and how to like work with clients and letting them make mistakes and letting them say the wrong thing and being there to support them along the way. So I have a decent amount of experience, like parenting your team as it kind of feels at times. And migrating into this agency world, I kind of missed it. I missed the cultivation of someone. And it's been really exciting, to see somebody enter my team in a full-time capacity and how much she's learned and how much she's grown in the past year. Because what I tend to tell people is like part of your reputation when they go to another business, will someone say, oh, you have your shit together? Or will they say, what did you learn there? What are you doing? So I want people, because I don't know, I know my team's not going to stay with me forever. You know what I mean? So I want them to be able to leave my space, go somewhere and impress people with how much they know, with how confident they are, with what they can run. This is what I like doing. And to your point, like, do I like registering in different states? No. Do I like the fact that I have to get like additional auto insurance because we are like now driving to a certain property with one of our clients? No. The back and forth of client payment and accounts receivable. It's like that stuff isn't necessarily fun, but I would much rather be in a management position overseeing my team than directly working with clients. I joke with people that my team is my client. Like I'm of service to them. Is that how you feel?
I heard you say that and I loved that. Like when I feel like we were just in casual conversation, you said that and it stayed with me because I think that I have not done that in the past. Like I was really putting the client first, like really, and my team suffered because of it. And I think since I've sort of shifted that mindset, we've had like higher retention, better team satisfaction. I was someone who would be like, take the client, even if we didn't have capacity, and then just like make it work. And that's not great for the team. So I think that has definitely been something I've been shifting and working on like very much for the past 6 months.
Which leads me to another question. This is the Unfiltered Entrepreneur. And you're a very generous giver in how much you've shared with us today. What are some mistakes that you think that you've made in building your agency and running your agency where you're like, if I had only known, then I would not have done X, Y, Z? Or like, what's something we can pass on to people?
Oh my God. I mean, the list is long, actually, let me tell you. But if I'm going to pinpoint some things that other people could potentially learn from, I would say we've been underpriced along the way more times than I can count. Like if I could give a piece of advice, it's really like, don't be afraid to continue to raise your prices, to charge what you're worth, Because when you have too many clients and your team is overworked, right? Like that's been just a thing for us, like continuing to raise our prices, less clients at higher price points. And just from like a team perspective, like I think we've been really good with profitability, but we've had like an overworked team, and I've been exceptionally overworked in the past. So I think that's one mistake that I've made that I would have changed earlier. I've just made the mistake of really not vetting people enough before hiring, even though I thought I have, like your point about people, you want your team to go to another agency. I've hired someone from another agency and been like, what were they doing over there? Like, what were they learning? But oh my God. But ultimately my mistake, because clearly I didn't suss that out enough. We had like 2 interviews, saw some work samples, right? But now we like give work assignments instead of just asking for a portfolio, because people can give you like someone else's work and you can't know if it's theirs or whose it is. So I think that's another mistake that we've made. And then, oh my gosh, so many. I think I have personally made the mistake of like leaning too much on my COO from like a decisions perspective. I think I've learned that it's important to have a COO, like someone or whoever it is for you who's in your business. Maybe it's just an employee if you have 2 people and they're really in it with you. I think it's really important to set boundaries and maybe have like a mentor outside or this agency group where we can talk, because that person is not, even if they have like a vested interest in the business, it is not their business. It is yours. Leaning too much on that person, sharing too much, getting like crossing that line, I think can really put too much pressure on that person, or even they can't be objective about it because decisions can affect them. And so I've had such an amazing COO for a couple of years that she was so willing to be there and be in those conversations that I was just like, great, I'll take it. And I think I took and eventually realized that I was like crossing those lines. So all that to say, my true piece of advice would be like, look outside. And my resistance was always, well, it's going to take so much to explain the ins and outs to someone outside the business when this person is in it and they know and we can just chat about it. No, take the extra time to help someone with it who can have an outside perspective, understand your business and give you support and advice, because someone who's in it is just too close. So I think those would be like 3 things at the top of my mind lately that have been things I would have changed.
Well, Amandina, I've learned so much from you for the past few months that we have been friends and enjoyed a few martinis or 2 or 4 or 5 together. It's been so great learning from you for the past few months, growing our friendship and everything that I've learned from you. I thought that I had everything figured out and that I was doing really great. And maybe I won't need to lean on this agency group too much. And I think that a part of me was worried that what if I'm going to let somebody tell me how to run my business and then I'm going to take all this outside information. I'm not going to run it on my own. And it's actually been the opposite. I've been able to really lean on you guys and really open up and really get a ton of different pieces of feedback and still make my own decisions in the agency. And it's just been so great to be able to lean on you and to grow our friendship and get to know each other better. So I'm just so grateful for you.
Same. So grateful for you and all that you willingly share. I think this podcast is a good example of how just like unfiltered you truly are and giving in life. So it's been like just such a blessing having you like in my corner, and I've learned so much.
And I'll see you in New York soon, and I'm going to give you the biggest hug and enjoy a cocktail together.
Or 2 or 3 or 4 martinis. Can't wait.
2 or 3 or 4. Where can we follow you and fall in love with you?
Yes, please follow us at media.alacarte on Instagram, mediaalacarte.com, or find our studio at Studio a la carte on Instagram. Those are the best places.
Amazing. And if you guys want to come see the studio, she has one of the most beautiful studios to shoot in or to have a meeting in all of New York City. I mean, it is stunning. Make sure that you check it out. If you'd like to come see it, we're hosting an event there. There's more information in the show notes. But Amandina, thank you for joining us, and we will catch everybody else on the next episode of The Unfiltered Entrepreneur.